Hello, YouTube. Welcome to my channel, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. I have another political reaction video for you. And this one may be a little lengthy. I don't know. I just wanted to kind of ramble today because I'm fed up. I've been fed up. I started a series called Divest from the Democrat Party around 2022. And when I first started telling people that Black Americans needed to get out of the off the Democratic plantation, a lot of people didn't want to hear what I had to say, but I was serious about it. You know, hey, what's going on, Eyes? If you're around, I might drop the link. You might want to come up for some of this. Anyway, so I wanted to, I think, successful with reaching some people that, we needed to stop being on the plantation with the Democrats. And, then I kind of tied it back to being us in shackles and chattel slavery. And it was the Democrats who had us there. And now they have most of the Americans, unfortunately, mostly Black women, from the racial standpoint, on a mental plantation. And it's very hard to shake it. So I said, well, forget about shaking it, but we got to just keep chiming on. So here's some political figures who I feel from the blue states that are traitors, as far as I'm concerned, to the American way of life. I think they betrayed their constituents. I think they've betrayed and they have disdain for federal law. And I don't see how anybody could vote these people back into office because they're willing to use, I guess, whoever immigrants, recent immigrants, if they're legal, they're willing to hide illegal aliens using the legal ones as human shields, right? Because we need to have immigration, of course, but it needs to be controlled because the main thing about integration, not only for the labor workforce, is assimilation, the American way of life. That if you flood our country with people who don't speak the language, who have their own, culture and everything else, they don't assimilate, right? So they take over certain areas and we cease being American. So the riot in LA should tell you enough that these people say they want to be here, but they're flying Mexican flags while burning the American flag. And Gavin Newsom and Karen Bass should be ashamed of themselves. So in this live, I'm gonna go through a little process. I have a sister. She's a conservative. I mean, she's been around for a while, April Chapman, and she's gonna kind of tell you why the Democrats. Some people already know, but I want to make sure I get it over this live. People realize that there's a reason why these Democrats will openly go against the American way of life in order to flood the census block with just bodies so they can gain congressional power and money. And they don't care if they destroy the United States doing it. And that's exactly what the plan was with Biden and Harris in the last 4 years. That's why they let 20 million people on an outside figure come into this country. And now they're fighting very hard to keep those people here. And it doesn't matter whether some of those people are killers, murderers, and all that other kind of stuff, rapists. It doesn't matter. As long as they get the numbers, keep the power. And these are the dastardly people who are in charge of the five major sanctuary cities, right? States, right? California, Illinois, New York, Colorado, and the other one, Illinois, and what's the other one? Massachusetts, right? And if you heard Wu speak, she compared ICE agents to Nazis. So listen, these people are our enemies. Now, Eric Adams tried to change his mind at the end, but the die was cast, and he already showed his thing. So I got a couple of clips. First, I'm going to show April Chapman. And I'm going to skip through her stuff, but I'm going to put her link into the description so you can go see the whole live. But she goes into why she feels, and she's probably right because I agree with her because I thought about this as well, on why the Democrats want all these illegal aliens to stay here, right? She's gonna go through that. Then I'm gonna probably go through a couple of clips of a few women of color who say that they understand what's going on, but they're gonna vote for Democrats anyway. And then there's some who just say, well, it doesn't matter what the law is, let them stay. I mean, it's like childish, this so-called empathy thing. And I have a kind of a Chinese Asian guy say, hey, it's not my fight. And he's all for legal immigration. And those are short clips. I'm going to show those. And then I'm going to show the lead attorney takes us inside an operation where ICE raids a factory, an ice factory, and rounds up like 50 illegals. And then he talks to the CEO because he's wondering why the CEO is not being arrested. So, I mean, we're going to go through the daisy chain. I'm going to skip through some of this stuff. And, I'm doing this impromptu. So it might be choppy, but, I don't care. The bottom line is, we need to keep this immigration pressure on. And then when it comes time to vote, I think by the time midterms come in 2028, I'm going to have as many people thinking, how can I let these liberal socialist Democrats get back into office? I mean, can you imagine? I just can't imagine what the country will turn into if they get back, and they will get back into power. But somehow we need to break the far left part of them out. And I don't know. Trump could blow it, and they could blow it, but they could do something stupid. Here's what I think the Republicans can do to blow the lead that they have, and I'm serious about this. If one American dies for Israel in their war against Iran, the Republicans will lose everything. If I'm serious. If they send any troops to fight for Israel and our American people die for them, they're going to lose everything. They'll lose everything they work for. Let Israel fight their own battles. Okay, I know we're paying the money, but if we get involved and American troops die, it's over for them. It will be for the Republicans for sure if Trump does that. And that's my opinion. I think I'm right. I know if I had a son and he had to go fight for another country, I'd be finished with the administration forever, and the party that fought that back. Anyway, so let me just go ahead and get April Chapman up here and let her say her little piece, and then we'll just go through that, and I'll be starting and stopping her video, and all that kind of good stuff. Where is she? Where is April? She was up there. Oh, there it is. There it is. All right. Mm-hmm. Gotta have this queued up, but let's go.
Has been on fire for several days now, and it's because flat out Democrats are stupid. The Democrat Party, they're stupid and they are evil, and they want everyone to believe that the reason that things are out of control is because of Donald Trump. Well, first of all, what we need to do is take a look at the recent polling data regarding this whole immigration issue. Now, according to recent polls, overwhelmingly, right, no matter which poll you look at, most Americans wanted the border closed, they wanted it secure, and they wanted individuals who are in this country illegally deported. Yes, I get it. Trump said he was only going to go after the criminals and the sex traffickers and the drug dealers and all that stuff and the gang members. Yes, that part is true too. But Americans do not.
Let me just stop on that point so I don't lose it. I really thought that was a mistake. We're trying to soft shoe it to say they should have just. I know they meant prioritize getting the real bad criminals out, but they left it open for their opponents to say, well, you said you were going to like kind of alluded to that you'll be giving everybody else a pass. That shit was never true. But you, instead of saying, listen, we're going to go after these bad people first, but if you're out of compliance, we're coming after you too. So if you're harboring somebody who's a criminal and we get you, you're also going. And they should have been harder on that.
Not want to take care of illegal immigrants. We don't want our taxpayer dollars being used to subsidize another class of government dependents. So the jury is out, and it's been settled that Donald Trump is doing what he was elected to do. Well, Democrats, for some reason that I will uncover and explain in this episode, they do not want illegals deported. Well, first of all, we need to take a look at the recent polling data regarding the American sentiment regarding this immigration issue. And when you look at recent polls, overwhelmingly, most Americans, they wanted the border closed. They wanted it secure. They wanted Donald Trump to be the man to do it. And they want individuals who are in this country illegally deported. That is not up for debate. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah, but he said he was only going to go after the criminals and the drug dealers and the sex traffickers. Yes, that is true. That is true.
Yeah, but she's going to repeat some of the same stuff she said before. I'm going to skip ahead for a little bit here. And, so she says stuff. Yeah, that's what they said, sex traffickers and all that kind of stuff. But let's get to some of the meat that she wants to talk about right here.
We need to take a look. We need to take a look at a few of these clips. So let's check it out.
I ain't afraid of you.
Chaos in Los Angeles. Stores looted, cars burnt to a crisp, and American flags torched. Anarchists and dirt bikes are waving Mexican flags around LA while the city's engulfed in flames. And they love this country so much that they're waving the flag. So why do they hate the idea of being sent back? This doesn't look like assimilation. This looks like what it is, an invasion. This all started Friday afternoon. ICE agents were assisting a federal drug and money laundering raid in downtown LA, when all of a sudden, dozens of protesters showed up and clashed with officers on the scene. The mayor of Los Angeles didn't stop it. She told LAPD to stand down for hours and hung federal agents out to dry. Karen Bass told Trump, keep your hands off my Biden migrants.
We are going to fight for all Angelenos, regardless of when they got here, whether they have papers or not.
Whether they have papers or not. Listen, this lady is the same lady who came off of fiddling while her city was burning to the ground with empty reservoirs and all of that kind of stuff. The very fact that she says that it doesn't matter to her that people are in her town without legal compliance and papers says she's not fit to be mayor because she's willing to skirt the law, federal law, whatever law you want. It's federal law for sure, in order for people to stay here illegally. I don't care what kind of solidarity you think you have. That is not right. And if all of the sanctuary cities, essentially all sanctuary cities, governors and mayors think the same thing, these people didn't really disclose that when they ran for office. So that's the hidden stuff that some of these liberals don't tell you, that therefore some of the things that will destroy our country and our way of life. There's no doubt about it.
We are a city of immigrants, and this impacts hundreds of thousands of Angelenos.
While rioters were raising hell, Democrats chose sides.
I skipped out of LA so that order can be restored.
If they're escalating their tactics, then so are we. When they show up, we gotta show up even stronger.
By Saturday morning, cop cars were getting pelted with rocks, and officers had to start deploying tear gas. The media told us, don't worry, the protests are mostly peaceful.
Most of the crowds, again, that I saw, that I spoke to, that I was interacting with, these are peaceful people that want to get their message across.
Most of those demonstrators were very peaceful.
The reality is we see peaceful protests.
This is where the Democrats want you not to believe your lying eyes. I mean, it's just, listen, I got a full disclosure. I was just like every other black person. I was born into voting for Democrats until you get your own revelation. I have to say, let me admit it, I voted for Hillary Clinton. I didn't like her, and none of the stuff she stood for, but, she's a Democrat. So I put a little check in the box. I'm glad she didn't win, because I didn't do that bad under Trump won. But until the pandemic. But it's just amazing. The revelations just started coming over me, and I said, no way.
Launching in Los Angeles.
What did happen in 1992 was so different from what we're seeing now. I mean, that was a real riot.
What about the cars on fire? ABC says it's just people having fun.
There's a large group of people. It could turn very volatile if you move law enforcement in there in the wrong way and turn what is just a bunch of people having fun watching cars burn into a massive confrontation and altercation between officers and demonstrators.
No, police weren't having fun. The chief of LA County says he was outmanned.
We are overwhelmed as far as the number of people out there engaged in this type of activity and the type of things that they're doing. They'll take backpacks, and the backpack will have a cinder block in it. They have a hammer, and they'll break up the cinder block and use that, pass it around to throw at officers, to throw at cars, and throw at other people.
Listen, what she didn't say here, but the chief says is on the heels of Karen Bass saying that her police force didn't need any help or everything was okay. Now, the point I want to make is this guy, kind of like the fire chief who came out when the city was burning, he said that they were overwhelmed pretty much against what she says. Now, the key is that he understands that she is his boss. And regardless of her firing him, he had to say what he had to say, not for himself, but for his cops that he had to put out there defenseless because they got an incompetent woman in charge. It could have been a man, but it seems like a lot of women are more incompetent because of the way they govern.
6 o'clock on Saturday, the city was on fire, and Trump had to call in 2,000 National Guard for backup. Now it's up to 4,000. Trump didn't wait for permission from the governor like the last summer of love. Now there's a new policy. When they spit, we hit.
If we see danger to our country and to our citizens, we'll be very, very strong in terms of law and order. It's about law and order. When they spit at people, they spit. That's their new thing. They spit, and worse, you know what they throw at them, right? And when that happens, I have a little statement. They say, they spit, we hit. And I told them.
Let me stop it right there. Listen, one of the things that I think a lot of people get wrong is that, if you're out of compliance in any way with your immigration status, you are subject to deportation. Doesn't matter if you were here for 20 years. Doesn't matter if you have 7 kids and 8 baby daddies. It doesn't matter if you're a man who's here trying to marry an American citizen and you're trying to get your... Listen, if you didn't come here the right way, you could be a model citizen. But if your paperwork is out of compliance, and you get caught, it's subject to deportation. It's just as simple as that. And that means that point needs to resonate with people. If you're here on a visa and the visa expires and you stay here for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, don't matter what you've done. They catch you, you're gone. You just got to follow the rules. And if you want to put it in layman's terms, if you drive in a car, you could be a great driver. You never had any problem, no tickets. But if your license expires and you're driving on an expired license and you happen to get pulled over by a cop, he's going to take your car away from you. He's not going to let you get back in the car and drive. You're going to be subject to the laws of the state that you're in or the locality that you're in. And some of those laws take that car away from you and impound it. You got to get all your stuff right to get that damn car back. You know what I'm saying? And don't let any criminal activity be associated with you and that car. They can take it away from you. You know, so let me, none of this kind of stuff that how great you were before or how great you are now. When you're out of compliance with the laws and the regulations of the state that you're in, on a state level or a federal level, you are subject to the penalties. It's as simple as that.
Nobody's going to spit on our police officers. Nobody's going to spit on our military.
Protesters liked spitting, but they didn't like.
Listen, this is so hard for me to watch because I have been doing so much research on the Ingram, but somebody, anybody, please go on and give your girl a call so I can get on Fox News and explain to you why the heck these Democrats are saying the things that they're saying, and why is it that the Republicans are not exposing them and telling.
All right, so I just stopped it for 1 second here because this is what you need to listen to. She's going to go into what her theory is on why the Democrats want all these immigrants here. And those smart people out there, you probably already know, but let her say it because I don't hear no lies.
The truth. So since I'm free and no one owns me and I'm free to say whatever the heck I want to say, I'm just going to go ahead and peep everybody here on game. The Democrats are fighting to keep these illegals in this country because they need illegal immigrants, not because they care about them, because they want to give these people a better life. That is not it. They need these illegals because these illegals represent congressional power. I'm not sure how many of you guys knew this, but the census, they count bodies, not citizenship. So more bodies mean more congressional seats. More seats mean more federal money and more control. If you look at what's been happening to Democrat cities for the past 8 years, these Democrat cities are bleeding citizens. People are leaving these cities and states in droves because of the high crime, because of the high taxes, because of the government overreaching, the crazy Green New Deal policies. It's just not friendly to business. There's so many reasons why they have lost people. So their solution is we got to replace this tax base with illegals. Since we can't generate revenue within the state, the illegals will give us the appropriation that we need from federal money in order to expand our congressional districts, more bodies, more seats, and then more federal money. And so they are turning it into a literal socialistic hellhole. But these sanctuary cities are nothing more than slave recruitment centers. I went ahead and said it, so go ahead and clip it. Okay, the sanctuary cities, these are not safe havens. They're recruitment hubs for Democrats, their next loyal voting bloc. That's what they need these people for. That's why they're giving them the free housing. They're giving them the free health care, the food sources and EBT. All of that sounds compassionate until you realize that it creates a cycle of dependence. And so since Democrats, they love keeping a people oppressed and subjugated and dependent, they're not looking to uplift these communities. They're looking to control them. How do we know? We've been here before. The Black American community with the Great Society program created another demographic of government dependence. The Democrats oppressed and subjugated and beat into during Reconstruction and Jim Crow, the idea that you're going to vote for us and you're going to like it, and we don't care how you feel about it. That's what they always do. They are the party of subjugation and oppression and coercion and control. I just did a video yesterday on the tyranny of the Democrats and how they use the KKK to push their tyranny. They don't believe in free and fair elections. They manipulate every aspect of government that they get their little grimy hands on. And so, as a Black American female, I am telling you to listen very carefully to the words that I'm telling you. The Black American community has already been replaced. They're not replacing us. It's already done. You're being replaced, not represented, okay? Don't fall for the lie. And this is not your fight. And I don't even understand why white liberals are even, they're just stupid. They don't know no better.
All right, so let me stop it there. I'm going to put this whole lie, her whole video in the description. But here's the thing. She said something already, that we've already been replaced in terms of Black Americans' usefulness to the Democrat Party. You know, I did some numbers during the for the election that just passed, and if 100% of the eligible voting black people in this country voted for Kamala Harris, Trump would have still won. He would have lost just one swing state by a small margin, but he would have won all six other swing states, and he would have won the election as well. Without one vote, the Republicans, if they didn't get one vote from us, they still would have won the election. Now, if that doesn't tell you that you're obsolete, then nothing does. That's why they want to bring a whole new class in, and so you just have to be under a rock not to be able to see it, or listening to a fool like Jasmine Crockett. You know what I'm saying? That's the kind of stuff that we need to get over. And that's the long and short of it. So I got a couple of ladies from TikTok and one guy that I want to play a little bit just to hear what some other people are saying about this, on whether they support it or not, and all that kind of good stuff. So in this, without further ado, just let me get to it, and we'll see how that goes. Okay. TikTok. All right. Let me get it up here.
Latinos, please come to the front, please. The African American community is your final ally. We are your only ally. We proved that back in November when we showed up in droves and voted to keep you here. We cared about you more than you cared about you back in November. And now you are trying to draw a line of division that you can't come back from. Don't bite off more than you can chew. You want us to get out there and protest and risk our lives and our freedom, knowing the plight of African Americans in the United States during protest. But you don't give a goddamn because it's all about you. If you really cared about the African American community, you would say, don't go out there. Don't do it. Your anger is misplaced. It's misdirected. It needs to be directed at the people that truly betrayed you. And that is your own people. Given the opportunity to vote again today, I can assure you that the African American community would still show up in droves.
Well, only the African American women and the sycophantic men that follow them, but for the most part, even more black men are leaving the Democratic plantation. It was just 20% last time. But next time, I think it's going to be more like 30 to 40%. So speak for yourself, sister.
To keep you here. Would your own people do that? That's what you need to be asking yourselves. Don't shut off your final ally. And that's the African American community, because given the level of hatred, if we had to go by levels, it's the Latino community who is hated and the African American community that's hated equally in the United States.
I played this lady because you're too old to be talking about stupidness like hated. You're living in this place. You got heat, hot water, probably, maybe somebody taking care of you. You're living. Look like you ain't missed a meal. Who hates you? Who hates you? That's making your life a living hell. Most of the Latinos who voted for immigration, some of them regret it, but most of them don't. You just ain't hearing from them. The ones who went through the green card, I have one of the ladies coming up who had a green card, and she sounds like an idiot too. So we'll probably get to her next.
We're all in this goddamn boat together. If you hear us laughing and kikiing about someone leaving the United States, it's the Latinos that voted for Trump that we think should leave, not every Latino. We don't think that, and we never have said that.
All right, so that's enough of this one. So these are kind of people whose minds are kind of misguided, and there's a lot of them, and that's why I know that these are the kind of people I just can't see ever voting for, and I couldn't see giving the levels of power to I have to say, to any black woman who's a liberal. I just couldn't do it. Okay, so here's another chick.
U.S. love immigrant labor, but not immigrant life.
She has a green card.
The culture, the food, the hustle, but never the people. And what's happening in LA right now isn't about law. It's about control. It's about reminding brown families that they're never fully safe. I got my citizenship about 3 years ago, and I came here as a legal green card holder. So I can only imagine the things that they're putting the illegals through when they're trying to make a better life for their families, when they've shown up and shown out every single days for the jobs that some of you don't want to work, but you guys are complaining because the next person is doing the job. And these aren't criminals being deported. These are people's moms, dads, neighbors.
Anybody who's in this country out of compliance with uh, the laws of immigration are out of compliance. They don't have to be violent criminals. They could be your mother. They could be your father. They could be your sister and brother. If they're not here legally, they're here illegally, period. And you got a green card. And for you to be such an idiot to say what you're saying, it's just, you're not thinking logically. Especially for all the things that you had to go through to get a green card. The whole notion that you're still under some kind of oppression is just absolute ludicrous. So anyway, so let's, I wanted to put up a couple of people who are talking foolery, just to let you know that this is the kind of opposition that, Trump and his administration is up against, right? Maybe they're not protesting, but these people vote. And these votes are the votes that help destroy America, okay? Because the law and order doesn't matter if you don't feel good about it.
People who've built their lives here. And if you're quiet because it's not your family today, just remember, they've never needed a reason to come for us next. U.S. love immigrant labor, but not immigrant lives. They want the culture, the food, the hustle, but never the people. And what's happening in LA right now isn't about law. It's about control. It's about reminding brown families that they're never fully safe. I got my citizenship about 3 years ago, and I came here as a legal green card holder. So I can only imagine the things that they're putting the illegals through when they're trying to make a better life for their families, when they've shown up and shown out every single days for the jobs that some of you don't want to work, but you guys are complaining because the next person is doing the job. And these aren't criminals being deported. These are people's moms, dads, neighbors, people who've built their lives here. And if you're quiet because it's not your family today, just remember, they've never needed a reason to come for us next. U.S. love immigrant labor, but
that's, what she said is factually incorrect. I mean, who's come for you? If you're in compliance, who's coming for? And to tell people that if you're here, outside of compliance, that you're safe, you're not. You're just not. That's a falsehood. And we shouldn't be telling people that. So here's another sister, and she's speaking a little bit more sense. I can get with that.
Families do belong together. So can you tell me why are you breaking up your own on us, blaming it on Donald Trump? Because if you're in a family and one of your family members get deported and you choose, to say F them, and you're staying in America because you love America more than your own family. You love being an American more than you love being with your own family. How is that our fault? If you have a husband, and he get deported and you choose to not go with him, that is you breaking up your own family. That's not us. If I had a family, and one of us get deported, we just gonna go together. Because families belong together. Instead of trying to cry and, get sympathy and hope that, we can get them back one day or not. But we still gonna stay here. How's that our fault? Exactly. I'm really asking because I want to know.
I hear you. And just one more from an Asian guy who has his perspective. Because Asians are kind of quiet when it comes to these things, but they have opinions just like anybody else.
I'll say this, right? I'm a nobody, but it's like I've been seeing so many people asking Asian creators to speak up about the whole riots in LA and all these deportation things. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. Asian people, we support the country. We support the betterment of the country. We support that. So what is there to say? What is there to say? We support the deportations of illegals. It is honestly tiring, because here's the thing. We want the country to be better. We want the country to be better. We want the country to, if you did it legally, if you stand in line, if you paid the price, right? You paid the money and all that, you did all the process, the paperwork, all the stuff, which usually most Asian people do. Why would we care about someone jumping in line, crossing the border, and all this stuff? Why should we, be happy about that? We're not really. This is the thing where we're not really dependent. Asian people aren't really dependent on migrant labor, right? Not like other people. We're not really dependent on migrant labor. So we're not gonna cry that the U.S. is pretty much backing what they promised. The U.S. promised, or this presidency promised, that they would deport illegal immigrants. They're doing that. Why are you crying? Why are you crying about it? This is the thing where, you see it, like these immigrants are waving the flags of other countries, burning down the flag of the U.S., and then you think Asian people want to support that? No, they want to stay away from that. They don't want to be grouped in with these people. That's the thing. Asian people want to, focus on themselves and their community and their country. They don't want to be grouped in with these people. So really, stop asking Asian influencers to speak up about it, because you won't like what they say. You won't like what they say. So really, it's better off that they do the content that they're doing, instead of, say things you don't like. Because here's the thing. Asian people don't want to focus on the negativity and, say what they're really thinking. Deport, right? Deport illegal immigrants. They are fine with it. I'll say this, right? I'm a nobody. But
all right, so that's enough. So you get it. So the last thing I'm gonna show you is the lead attorney, and he goes to. With the lead attorney, what he's gonna do now is actually talk about a raid inside of a facility, and he's gonna tell you why, and he's gonna talk about the CEO and the CEO's answers on why he's not going to jail. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, here it is. Oh, before we start, right, there is a law that was passed called the Immigration Reform and Control Act. It was in 1986. That's when the law was passed. Section 274A, right, it says that you can't hire illegal aliens, right, to work your shop. All right, so let's let the lead attorney here.
And I am the lead attorney. I practiced over 20 years and I've handled countless immigration cases. And I'm going to give you an inside, behind the scenes perspective on how all of this works. Now, let's set the scene. What happened when ICE showed up at this meat packing plant? You can see here when the ICE officials showed up to the plant, the workers went scattering. They were hiding in between stacks of meat. They were hiding in freezers. They were even hiding in the walls of the plant. Look at some of these women. Now, I can tell you, having represented so many of these people, that I guarantee that 7 out of 10 of these women have children at home, and probably more than one. Their kids are at school, and when their kids get let out, these kids will learn that their mothers are not coming home. Look at her. Do you feel bad about this? Now, many people are blaming President Trump, saying that his immigration policies are too stern. But many people are blaming these women, these mothers who are putting their own kids in this situation, asking, why don't you just self-deport? You know you're not here in the country legally. A lot of people in this nation are frustrated with the illegal aliens and their protests, but some people are going one step further and are looking at the owners of these companies where these illegal aliens are working. They ask, why are these CEOs allowed to hire all of these people who are not here legally? Why are they allowed to pay these people these slave wages, and then when 50 get detained, 100 get detained, 150 get deported, nothing happens to the CEOs, nothing happens to the companies? Why aren't these owners in jail? Well, let's
Let me just stop for a second. That was a good lead into what he's going to be talking about almost for the rest of the video. Now, of course, I'm not going to keep it here for the whole video, but for nice stretches at a time, his explanations is something that we need to know on the ground, because that's a good question that goes across. They're raiding a lot of businesses to get these illegals out, but we haven't seen one CEO, one owner do a perp walk. I mean, why is that? They know better than to hire illegals. And this whole notion, and there is some truth that, regular Americans won't want some of these jobs. There's some truth to that. But when the job market gets bad enough, and if all of the other giveaway bennies are gone, there'll be more Americans saying, shit, man, I need to eat something, right? But the point really is there's some laws that govern the way Americans work that even the owners, they can't shirk, right? That's what I'm saying. They try to do it, no health insurance, but they won't make you a full-time employee, that kind of stuff. But you can't really get away with all of the the slave labor that they're trying to do to the immigrants.
Let's listen to what this CEO has to say about the raid that has completely decimated his company. Here is the owner of the plant where this humongous raid took place. We're going to listen to what he says on the same day the raid took place about his feelings on this occurrence, and I'm going to decode what he's really saying. I've got a lot of experience in this as an attorney, and I'm going to answer some of y'all's questions as to why these CEOs are not getting arrested.
Obviously, a lot of these individuals, you were under kind of the impression, from what I understand, they had documentation to work for you, and you thought they were working legally. Is that correct?
Well, why would we not? We e-verify. So what are we supposed to do?
Now, let me stop it right here. This owner says, well, we e-verify. How are we supposed to know that these people are not here in the country legally? Now, I'm going to tell you in a second why it's my belief that this man absolutely knew that so many of his workers were not here legally. But let's take it step by step. He says, we e-verify. Well, what does he mean? E-verify is just a system that's operated between the Department of Homeland Security and the Social Security Administration. So when you go apply for a job and you have to fill out that form I-9, the employer puts the information into the E-Verify system, and it compares your information that you put on the I-9 with the information that's in the Department of Homeland Security and the Social Security Administration records. So the system then gives the employer a response regarding the status of the employee, the prospective employee, saying that this person is authorized to work, that the person is not authorized to work, or that it's inconclusive and more investigation needs to be done. So this gentleman is saying, hey, I e-verify. The government wants me to e-verify, I e-verify. So how was I supposed to know that over half of my workforce is here illegally? And that's true. I believe him when he says he e-verifies, but that's just the first step. Let's listen a little bit closer.
Can you tell me? I'd like to know.
I mean, do they just provide their documents like they would any person coming into work for you, right? And then you do the normal situation and nothing, no red flags, no nothing. They were just normal people, and then all of a sudden you find out
precisely
they're using American citizens'
Precisely.
identities.
So the reporter says, hey, they just come in with these documents and you use these documents to e-verify and everything checks out. So it's all good, right? And the CEO says, precisely. Now, let me explain to you what's really going on in these streets and how these illegal immigrants are beating the e-verify system. When you go apply for a job and they're requesting all of these identification documents, there are really just two types. The first type are documents that actually belong to you, and the second type are documents that do not belong to you. Now,
so I need to stop it there, because this explanation might take a little while, so I want to stop it just so it's not one continuous stream. So, but he gave you the two choices, one that belongs to you and one doesn't belong to you. And he, lead attorney's lead attorney. He's going to give you a thorough analysis about what the difference is. But really understand when he starts talking about the documents that don't belong to you that people are using, it's really eye-opening, and it makes sense. Why a lot of illegals can be here for so long, and the sacrifices that some people make to make that happen.
Now, these illegal immigrants who are working under the table cannot provide the documents that actually belong to them because they don't have them. So they have to provide documents that do not belong to them. Now, there are two types of those documents. If I'm going to present documents that do not belong to me, I am going to either present fake documents or real documents. The fake documents are just made up. The name is invented, the birth date is invented, the picture, everything is invented. These documents are very easy to get and they're cheap. These fake documents were huge back in the day, but they're not worth very much now because of the E-Verify system. By far, the much better option for these illegal aliens is to use real documents. It's much better for the aliens because the real documents are much more likely to work. Now, the real documents cost a lot more on the market, but that's something that these illegal aliens are willing to invest in. One of the biggest issues with using real documents is that they destroy the real person's tax history with the IRS. It takes so many documents and police reports and countless hours to try to clear your name when someone has been using your identity to work. Now, let me say this. Interestingly, you hear a lot of aliens who are in the country legally say that they want the illegals to go back home. One of the issues is that the legal aliens are much more likely to be targeted for this type of crime. This is because if an illegal who speaks zero English goes to apply for a job with the name Sarah Johnson, it could raise a red flag. But there's no red flag raised when the illegal says she's Araceli Rosario Hernandez Garcia. The employer says, well, okay, that fits the description. So 9 times out of 10, the identity that's going to be stolen belongs to an alien who actually came here the right way and has all of their documentation in order. Now, another wrinkle to this that we see all the time is that the illegal alien does not steal the identity of the citizen. The identity was actually given to them by the citizen. Now, what do I mean by that? Listen, it's common for there to be Hispanic families where some of the family members are here legally and some of the family members are not. So say you are a 24-year-old woman and you're not here legally, but you have a 29-year-old sister that is. You say, hey, give me your papers so I can go apply for this job. She gives you her documents and her documents pass the E-Verify system, and then you start to work. Trust me, this happens at these jobs all the time, and they are not looking very hard at the pictures on the IDs that are presented. I've seen siblings, cousins, even friends get away with this. The companies are.
Can you imagine how big a solid that really is? I mean, this is, so the truth of the matter is the way these people are behaving over immigration and illegal immigration status is high stakes poker. It's high stakes. And, even if you're a criminal, I mean, people are willing to hide you here behind them like a human shield to make sure that the ICE doesn't get to you, and ICE is going to do their job. But the problem with the sanctuary cities is that they make it very difficult, and they almost are trying to say that the government itself is by doing their job is somehow overstepping their bounds, and that's absolutely not true. But that's how they think about law enforcement, even at the local level. That's why they had those stupid rules that you could rob a vendor blind $1,000 at a time.
Are hiring people at $8.47 an hour. They have an incentive to look the other way, and they do. I also need to say, though, that this is still a crime, even though the documents were given voluntarily. If you present these documents as your own, it could be identity theft, it could be fraud, it could be perjury, depending on the jurisdiction and the type of job. And your sister's tax history is going to be all jacked up. So the employer says, hey, I use the E-Verify system, so it's not my fault that these workers are working here illegally. That's a huge benefit of the E-Verify system. It allows the employer a good faith defense against these allegations of knowingly hiring all of these illegal aliens. Let's continue with this owner and see what he says. And guys, let me pause for a second. I know we're talking about the corruption that's in this immigration system, but it's not the only system that's corrupt.
How did it feel when you learned that they were using other people's identities?
I could not believe it. I was dumbfounded.
Yeah.
These are good, hard-working people.
Do you think that this man really didn't know that his workers were there illegally? Put in the comments whether you think this owner knew that his workforce was working there illegally. I know I do, but let me explain to you something. The minimum wage where this occurred in Nebraska is $13.50 an hour. They just raised it this year from $12 an hour. Now, what do they do at these places? I have a lot of experience in this because Georgia is the top chicken producing state in the entire nation. We have a city about an hour outside of Atlanta that's called the poultry capital of the world and produces and processes millions and millions of chickens each year. The work at these meat and chicken plants is about the same, and it is brutal. I have represented tons of these people over the years. Let me tell you about the work. It is insane. Because you're dealing with meats and chickens, the workplace has to be extremely cold. You're there working in these inhumane conditions, 8 hours, 9 hours, 10 hours a day, every single day. You're working in and out of huge freezers. Your hands and feet, they freeze. Your joints are all messed up. You are doing extremely repetitive tasks with your hands. You get carpal tunnel syndrome. You get a lot of use injuries. It's assembly line work. Maybe you're on the slaughter line. Maybe you're on the trimming line. Maybe you're deboning. So many times people get cut and they lose fingers. The floors are all wet. You're constantly slipping, you're falling, you're tearing ligaments, you're breaking bones. Believe me when I tell you that most Americans will not work the slaughter line for $14 an hour, especially when Chick-fil-A is paying $17. The work
Yeah, but Chick-fil-A doesn't have the volume to hire them. Listen, but if the alternative is they could get free money lead, they're going to go for the free money, right? That means even if they stay home, they're going to stay home because somehow we find ways to take care of them. But that's coming to an end. At some point, people are going to say, hey, listen, if I have to spend a year in purgatory in the chicken line to at least have some income and a roof over my head or something, they're going to do it. So I don't believe that, that they can't find no Americans to do some of these jobs. It's just a level of desperation that is required. And we don't give them that chance to get that desperate because we keep giving them shit.
Working these plants is brutal. So if you ask me, did this owner know that these workers were here illegally? My opinion, my educated opinion, is that he absolutely knew. He knows Americans will not do these jobs deboning and trimming and slaughtering for $14.70 an hour. This man is going to have to jack up the wages, and that is exactly what he does not want to do because it cuts into his profits. I have seen these workers.
Well, that part, of course, is true, Lee. But hey, man, he's going to have, if they get these guys out, he's going to have to do something. Maybe the chicken's going to cost a little bit more money, baby.
Paychecks. And would you believe that they get raises every year of 23 cents or 34 cents an hour? I mean, just think about it for yourself. You're an American. What would you say to your employer if he gave you a yearly raise of 34 cents an hour? Well, do you know what these illegals say? They say, gracias, jefe. Le agradezco muchísimo por esta muestra de confianza. But you, what would you say as an American to your boss? There is no American, no adult in their 30s or 40s that can survive on $15.70 an hour and getting 34 cents in raises. This man absolutely knows that.
Oh, he knows. He absolutely does know it. But all right, so how do they live off of it, Lead? How do they live off of it? Because they're the commune, right? They commune. So you know what? The way people live in America might have to change. If they get desperate enough, they might have to pack 5 people in a house, like the Asians do, until they get on their feet, or something like that. Well, I know we don't like each other, but you know what? There's a new day coming. But this owner, you're absolutely right about the CEO. He's lying his ass off with a straight face.
They really, truly are, and they're part of our family.
Mm-hmm.
So what?
They get free pot, they get free ice cream, they get free donuts every Friday.
Listen, you know what? He should have stopped while he was ahead, right? Because Lee's going to talk about, they're part of my family. I give them soda. I give them free ice cream. You know what I'm saying? Oh, my God. You know, I let the jigaboo come in through the front door sometime. Oh
Friday,
man.
they get
He says they're part of our family. They get free pop. They get free soda pop. They get free ice cream. We give them donuts on Fridays. It's like they're my own sons and daughters. I give them free pizza. They're my family.
We love them.
Let's end it right there. Okay. You know, all I'm saying is just to go back to where we started. That situation with that CEO is being repeated all around the country in all of these sanctuary cities. In all of these sanctuary cities. In all of these sanctuary cities. And but the workforce like that is happening in red states as well. But at least in the red states, you know, if ICE comes, there's not going to be riots. And that's the last thing I want to show you. The difference between a liberal, idiot police chief and a police chief who believes in law and order. And we're gonna show you that right now. And it's kind of depressing. You know what I'm saying? To see the difference. Because the first person I'm gonna show you is this idiot police chief from Seattle. And he's an embarrassment. Do I have him here? I don't want to get rid of him. Yeah, here it is. I don't know why I didn't see that. Right. Police chief from Seattle. Here it is. Okay, let's do this. All right. This is very short.
And protests also happening in our state. Protesters in Seattle clashed with police last night as they tried to stop people from being taken to the Northwest ICE Processing Center. It happened near the federal building in downtown. Police used what looks like pepper spray and non-lethal rounds to disperse the crowd. Protesters tried to prevent ICE from detaining people awaiting immigration hearings by...
That guy got exactly what he deserved. He got pepper spray. He went down like a log. You know, that was some good shit right there.
Piling lime bikes and scooters at the entrances to prevent people from exiting the building. Those bikes have been removed, and it appears to be much quieter in the area this morning. And while the protests here weren't as destructive as those in Los Angeles, Seattle Police Chief Sean Barnes was asked how he would handle the situation if President Trump deployed the military to our city, and Barnes said he would probably go to jail.
I will do everything in my power, I want to be clear, to protect anyone in Seattle from anyone who comes to this city with the intention to hurt them or inhibit their First Amendment rights.
This guy should be fired immediately. He should be fired immediately. It's not going to happen. But if I was the mayor, he would lose his job. He would have to take me to court to keep his job. He definitely would be promoted because I don't want my police chief who says he's willing to break the law to stop the feds from doing their job. This guy's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. Now, you know, he's a disgrace. Now, let's go ahead. I'm going to leave this disgraceful man, and I'm going to go to a man who believes in law and order, okay? And it's a damn shame. I don't care how he worded it. He's a disgrace. All right, so let's go to a person who has some belief in America. Okay. And I'm sorry to see that just like the sycophantic plantation runners just don't get it. Just don't get it.
Protests / riots, maybe, I don't know, over the weekend in Florida. Brevard County Sheriff Wayne Ivey, he ain't messing around.
If you let it turn violent, whoo, you do not want to do that in Brevard County. I'm going to tell you that, and I believe I can speak for my fellow sheriffs around the rest of the state. You don't want to let it happen. And just so there's no confusion, because I don't want to hear any whining later saying we didn't know. If you resist lawful orders, you're going to jail.
Okay.
Let me be very clear about that.
Fair.
If you block an intersection or a roadway in Brevard County, you are going to jail. If you flee arrest, you're going to go to jail tired because we are going to run you down and put you in jail. If you try to mob rule a car in Brevard County, gathering around it, refusing to let the driver leave, in our county, you're most likely going to get run over and dragged across the street. If you spit on us, you're going to the hospital and in jail. If you hit one of us, you're going to the hospital and jail, and most likely get bitten by one of our big, beautiful dogs that we have here. If you throw a brick, a firebomb, or point a gun at one of our deputies, we will be notifying your family where to collect your remains at, because we will kill you graveyard dead. We're not going to play. This has got to stop. You're watching what's taking place out there. You're seeing police officers that are being attacked, being spit on, being put in harm's way just for doing their jobs. You're seeing ICE agents that are being targeted for doing their jobs. And you're seeing obstructionists that are doing all of this, standing in the way of law and order. Not here, not in the state of Florida.
The thing that makes me sad is that we see a black sycophantic man who might as well have been a woman police chief, who's a liberal, thinking about DEI and thinking about, equity and inclusion and, and all the bullshit that goes along with that stupid thinking. And here's a man here, unfortunately, he's white. And I blame white people for the fact that we have such weak leadership, by the way. Where was this fucking guy when, we gave all the levers of power away so men don't run the country anymore? I'm surprised. It's just refreshing to see police chiefs who are still men. Listen, I'm going to say something sexy. I don't believe women should be police chiefs, not over a squadron of men. I think that's crazy. Anywhere. I don't care how butchy they are. But the point really is, it's good to hear a man talk like a man. And this is one of the reasons why, unfortunately, a lot of black women hate Donald Trump, because they're not used to men standing up and being men. They're used to men backing down and kowtowing and kowtowing to their bullshit. This guy ain't bullshit, right? Donald Trump says what he means and means what he says when it's important. Like what he said on the campaign trail, what he was going to do. Now, one illegal he said he was going to get them, and that's what he's doing. Anyway, so I just wanted to show the contract.
Real simple.
And that's unfortunate that the
things happen to you. Obey the law. Go protest all you want. Do it peacefully. Stand on the mountaintops and yell your opinion, your views. We invite that. But don't you dare break the law, because it won't go well for you.
Graveyard dead. We're going to kill you graveyard dead. Yeah, I would probably think twice about rioting in Florida after hearing that.
Yeah.
And of course, they wouldn't feel the same way in Seattle, because the police chief set a tone of weakness. Anyway, listen, I just wanted to go ahead and have this live and show you some of my feelings on this immigration stuff. Trump is absolutely doing the right thing about getting people who are not in compliance out of the country. And you know what? Some of these people are not being deported from the standpoint that if they have a legitimate reason why their paperwork was delayed or something like that, they may get some time. But the truth of the matter is, if you're out of compliance, for whatever reason, you are subject to deportation. And just like me, I have to follow the law. Everybody has to follow the law, and, if I get hung up, it wouldn't be because I was out of compliance. Do you understand what I'm saying? It wouldn't be because of that, right? And then the other thing I can control, right? If there's something out of control, I got a bad cop or something coming after me, that's one thing. But they're not going to stop me and see my paperwork out of control or out of compliance. And here I have to put these traitors, as far as I'm concerned, to the American way of life back up here. Well, from California, we've had Gavin Newsom wants to be president. Can you see this asshole being president? I mean, can you imagine if the whole country turned like California? Incredibly, lawless, rudderless, and weak. And Karen Bass, if Los Angeles reelects this woman, they're going to deserve every disastrous thing they get. Matter of fact, if they put another black woman in who's a liberal, then they might as well keep carrying bass because it'll be the same thing. The same thing with Ruth. She's incredibly she's just wrong. And of course our governor. We know about Eric Adams when he first, went for the sanctuary city stuff and he tried to pivot, but it was too late. And then of course Hochul was a terrible governor. And then of course Johnston, he acquiesced to the bullshit as well. With the gangs taking over apartment complexes and his police force not doing anything about it. How can that be? How can that be? And of course, Johnson is the worst mayor in the history of mayors. He's even worse than Tiffany Henyard, Brandon Johnson. And he's the worst mayor I've ever seen. And if the people in Chicago put this asshole back in office, they deserve every bad thing that's going to happen to him, because he certainly doesn't have their best interests in mind. And Pittsburgh, you can hang it up. Your ass is not going to be president. You can guarantee you. I'm a fat guy. People don't want no fat ass presidents. So you're not going to make it. All right. So anyway, listen, I put this guy down there with the championship pose of the immigrant flag. It says Mexican, but it could be any immigrant flag. This is what these people are for. They're for unfettered immigration, and people don't even have to assimilate to American way of life. They can bring their own horse shit as long as they can count their body, like April Mason says. As long as they can count the body in the census, and that person eventually votes Democrat, that's all they care about. And as far as then, they'll do that no matter how many American flags have to burn for them to stay in power. It's a damn shame. It's a crying shame. And that's why a man like Trump, with all his baggage, got reelected, because that was more important to have a man who means what he says down a campaign politically in charge, as opposed to these, I don't know, man, these anti-American people who betrayed us. Anyway, I had enough. Thanks for stopping by. You guys hit the like button when you can. Thanks to Alman Eyes for stopping in for a second. Or Payne, Marriage, Politics, and Sports. Over and out.